Hello everyone, this is Rachel taking over from Claire in the potting shed, and I'd like to take a look at February in the new look Maria Thus Biodynamic Calendar 2022. So what's new about this is that rather than having a single double page spread for the month, we now have two double page spreads. And what this affords us is a lot of space for making our own notes. As you can see, I've taken advantage of that. And lots of bits of information to make this usable in your everyday gardens. So when I was a brand new biodynamic vegetable grower, this section here was absolutely invaluable for me, because what it did was it gave me a rhythm to work to that guided me on every day of the week. But the reality is that many of us have very busy lives, and that we're trying to fit our gardens into small pockets of time across the month. So what I'd like to do today is take a look at this calendar in terms of several different rhythms that you could use to make this very accessible in your personal gardens. So the first rhythm I'd like to look at is the new moon full moon rhythm, and you'll find this under the solar and lunar events. And this dark circle here denotes the new moon, and this open circle here denotes the full moon. And what research shows us time and time again is that the period before the full moon is very beneficial for germination. Germination is stronger and more successful at this time. So if you're like me and you're itching to get on with sowing some seeds, you might like to think about some hardy flower annuals. So maybe your sweet peas, Cosmos nicotiana, can be sown on these flower days before the full moon. You could think about perhaps some rocket, spinach, maybe some early chard on these leaf days here. And I love to start my leeks off early so that I get a really early crop in the autumn. So I would use these root days here to sow my leek seeds. And then perhaps some very early peas, maybe some broad beans to fill in any gaps from overwintering. They can be done on a fruit day here. And also, if you've got heated propagators, you could start off your tomatoes and chilies also. Okay, so the next rhythm I'd like to look at is this southern transplanting time, and if we turn over the northern transplanting time. Now, this is quite a usable rhythm. We use it quite a lot in biodynamics. It is, for us in the northern hemisphere, the northern transplanting time is the time that we use the most. So as the moon moves around the earth, it moves at a slight angle. So that means that the moon sits lower or higher in the sky. And when the moon is descending through the sky, this is this northern transplanting time, it means that the sap is most vital in the lower parts of the plant. So what that means for us on an everyday basis is that's a really good time for working with the soil. It's, if we were looking at these fruit days, this would be a good time to be pruning your fruit trees or your fruit bushes. This is also a good time actually for dividing snowdrops. If your snowdrops are finished flowering and you want to divide them in the green, which is the best time, you could do that here. And on these root days, you might want to prepare your potato beds. You might want to be working with the soil, so adding manure and compost to your beds. Maybe working with your garlic, so weeding around your overwintered garlic, giving it a bit of a hoe, reminding it that it's a root. And on these leaf days, you could be ridging up your asparagus beds, adding compost there, and you can also here divide rhubarb. Now the funny thing about rhubarb is that we obviously call it a fruit, but the part of the plant that you are actually working with is the stem, and therefore it's beneficial to work with it on a leaf day. So leaf in this guide works with the leaf and the stem of a plant, so you could divide your rhubarb here. Okay. Now the next rhythm I'd like to look at is also in this solar and lunar events, and it's Perigee and Apogee. So Perigee is the time when the moon is nearest to the earth. Now Perigee is a time when the watery influences are very, very strong. You'll see that there's this grey boxes here. Now the grey boxes mean that there's no beneficial forces to be worked with on this day, and actually the forces can actually be not beneficial at all. So at Perigee, this is the time when the tides are at their highest, so the watery parts of the plant are also influenced by this. And so we find if you sowed your seeds at this time, you'll often find that germination is very poor, or perhaps growth is very sappy, leggy. But don't take my word for it, you could try it out. Try sowing some seeds at Perigee, and also try sowing them before this full moon and see what difference you get. Okay. So some other things I'd just like to note before I sign off is Immok on the 2nd of February. This is the festival that marks the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It's celebrated in the Christian religion with Candlemas and in the old Celtic calendar with Immok. And a thing that I love to do is to make earth candles at this time. Digging small holes in your garden, popping in a wick, using all your old candle wax and melting it in, lighting it at dusk. It's about celebrating the coming light, and maybe that's something you'd like to think about. This time is also a great time to start chitting your potatoes and enjoying the feeling that spring is on its way. Okay, well, I hope that's helpful, and I'll sign off for now. Bye-bye.